right. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Meet Music Knoxville. My name is Nicholas Horner, and I am the host of this second inaugural show. I'm not sure if that's what it is, but this is our second show. Anyway, we are so excited to have Alicia Keener here today. And before we bring her in, we just have a couple announcements. First of which, we have to thank some of the people that help make Real Knoxville music happen. School of Rock, Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams, Energy Home Solution, and Union Place Bar and Grill. Thank you so much for helping to make this station come alive. It's really dope of you. That's right, I'm cool and hip. I say the word dope. And yeah, I guess let's get right into this. I'm so excited to have Alicia here. So I was sort of looking for people. Oh, I should explain. The premise of this show is that there's this beautiful thing that happens when musicians that don't know each other meet. You're sort of, oh, you do music. Oh, that's yeah. And you're exchanging the names of people. You're exchanging music that you like, music you maybe don't like, experiences, places. There's a magical chemistry that can happen, and the goal of this show is to document that. I'm relatively new to Knoxville myself, so I have the opportunity of meeting so many fresh, great faces, and Alicia is one of them. I was online. I was sort of poking around the KSO website, and I can't remember what the reason was, but I found this person who had Natalie Merchant, Indigo Girls on her bio, as well as an interest in early music, which is just... And then to top it all off, Facebook friends with none other than the Jessica Watson. I was like, this is like, I gotta talk to this person. So, Alicia Keener, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I mean, like an absolute pleasure. I feel like there's so many questions I have, but then also like so many like possible like crossover conversations here. Thing I found out today, you are from Knoxville.
I am.
Are you from like Knoxville proper, or are you from like outside of the city?
I am from Knoxville, Knox County, and I grew up in Knoxville, and my family had a brief stint outside of Chicago for a few years, and then we moved back to Tennessee when I was 12, and we were in Oak Ridge for a little bit, but then I went to UT for my undergrad. So at this point, I've spent the majority of my life in Knoxville. So
cool. Yeah. And also, as we were talking about just briefly, in the moments that we shared together before we went on the air, Lubbock, Texas, and then Boulder, Colorado for school.
Yes.
Which is amazing. Go Tech. And Boulder, go Boulder. What's Bison, right?
Yeah, they're the Buffs.
The Buffs.
Buffaloes. Yeah.
My school was Bison. I went to this school in Pennsylvania called Bucknell. So
something about the bovine creatures always seem to get school mascots. I don't know what that is.
I don't know either. I always thought it was really funny because it's like, yes, of course, buffalo can be very aggressive, but also, I mean, they're herbivores, right? You know, it's right. They're herbivores.
I honestly don't know, but that could be.
Yeah, I don't know. You just don't think of them as aggressive, but
no.
But yeah, it's funny when they're appropriated and given all the angry faces and like they do with those like mascot cartoons. Anyway, I knew this is what you wanted to talk about when you got on the air, so thank you for taking that little twist and turn. Great. So let me ask this: early music. How, when, why, what, like...
Well, I would say I grew up listening to a lot of that kind of music. Both of my parents are musicians, and we always had music playing at our house, and something that we often had was like early music, like Baltimore Consort, that kind of stuff going on in the background. And so, and then also I as I was studying violin as a kid, a lot of I studied the Suzuki method, and a lot of those pieces come from the Baroque era. And so when I started my master's degree at Colorado, they have this incredible early music program there, and I was really lucky I auditioned and became part of that ensemble, and it just I learned so much, and not only just like musically and technically, it just really changed the way that I thought about making music, and really opened my ears to different ways of thinking, really.
Wow.
And so I really enjoyed that, and I played in the ensemble for the 2 years that I was there, and now that also influences how I teach that style of music, of course. And so yeah, so that was like this pocket of time where I had this really like focused like study and performance of that kind of music, and it's actually something I haven't really done so much of since
Right.
since living there, but it definitely is still like, a part of me, and like how I think and hear things.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love that. We were talking before. So I have to ask about your parents, but I will say we're talking before we came here. I have a background in classical voice. I was a very opera intensive program at Bucknell, and just affect like now everything I think of is colored by that experience, and it's very powerful. Like I guess what was like the biggest mindset shift that you found like coming from that music?
I think for me, there are a lot of, I guess there are a lot of stylistic rules that we're taught as musicians, and especially when it comes to technique.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in those 2 years, it was a lot of, this is the rule, and now we're going to kind of break it. And like what is appropriate, like what is acceptable to push those boundaries. And so like with the knowledge that we have of what is stylistically correct, how far can we go and still be within the range of like what's acceptable? Mm-hmm. And so that was like a really interesting experience. And that, it encouraged so much discussion among the group of players too. Like, well, what do we like? But what is also historically accurate? And so, so that was just a really fun thing to have that conversation, and to constantly be asking questions like that.
Yeah. And this is funny because I got to play with Jessica a couple weeks ago, and we of course like exchange just come to the show kind of stuff, and mentioned that you are into starting to do some fiddling, right? And that is a huge literally that conversation that you're talking about is exactly the conversation that happens at old time festivals and in old time gatherings. It's this: what is stylistically appropriate? What is how far is too far before it becomes something else? And so you're well prepared to be a part of the old time. Are you doing mostly old time?
Old time.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's great. How has that been going?
Oh, that has been so much fun. So I moved back to Knoxville in 2018, and I was straight out of my master's degree, and I was starting to teach, and I was also playing in the symphony. And some of Jessica and a few of my other friends, they've been involved in old time scene here for a while. And so I think it was Jessica who said, like, you should come out to a jam. So I did, and I loved it so much. Old time music just makes me want to holler. And so for me, it's the same experience of like, hear the tunes, and here's kind of like some basic like style things, but then you get to be so creative and you can come up with anything. And as long as it kind of fits,
Right.
kind of fits in with everything else, then you're good. And so, after being so, trained in, classical music, I guess it's been such a freeing thing and has pushed me in a lot of other ways that classical music cannot. There's no sheet music. There's no one telling you this is the way you have to do it. And I love that so much.
Yeah.
So
That's brilliant. Well, I love, it'll be cool now that we've met to watch how that path unwinds for you. I was also just getting into old-time music when I lived in Baltimore for a year, and then I spent a lot of time in Baltimore because my touring partner was there, and he ended up playing old-time music with a lot of the Peabody folks and like a lot of classical people who were also making that transition, and it's amazing how that experience I think it's just really powerful. You know what I mean? It's like it's all ensemble, you know? And I think that's like a crazy mindset shift depending on what type of music that you've been playing. But early music, though, it's like that's one of the beautiful things about early music is it really is ensemble based.
Oh yeah, and especially playing early music as a violist. It's pretty rare to actually have the melody in there. So yeah, so I grew to appreciate like my role as a like harmony player there. And but yeah, and also old time music, I think it came to me maybe more naturally than it would to someone else, just because I did study the Suzuki method growing up, which is all, primarily ear based, at least at the start, like learning everything by ear. And so it was kind of a natural thing for me. That's the way I teach myself. And I mean, that's the way I teach my own students. By ear. And so to be at a jam or with a couple of friends and pick up a tune, just sitting there playing is kind of like my mode.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah, so I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. What was I going to say? Oh yeah. So your parents are musicians? Do tell.
Yeah. So my dad, he is a classical guitarist, and he was on the way to playing professionally when he had a hand injury and ended up, it was a career-ending injury, and so he became an engineer. That was what he spent his working career doing, but he still plays. He's a fantastic musician, and I often, I guess it's one of those things I took for granted as a kid, like, oh, my dad is a really incredible musician. And so it wasn't really until I think when I was in college and I started to really, when I was just studying so intensely, that I realized, like, my dad is this really great resource, and I can ask him these questions and ask his opinions on things. And just because it's not the same instrument doesn't mean that he won't have great insights. And and he also, and then my mom, she studied the piano. And she also she never was a professional, but she has always appreciated music so much, and really, both my parents together have always, supported me and, encouraged me to pursue music. And so, which I've, and maybe another thing that I maybe took for granted a little bit, but now I appreciate it so much. So, yeah.
Well, and I wonder, it's like I think about, like, the viola is such an interesting choice of an instrument. And it's sort of like it's a little like being an alto in the choir. You really are doing the inner harmonies, you're doing sort of like a lot of the interesting counterpoint. Your goal is like, well, second fiddle isn't the right word, but it is. It's like your job is to support. And And I have to wonder, it's like you come from this musical background, you're to understand at an early age that that's an important function, because when did you start playing the viola? Like, when did you make that switch, right? Because that's always the thing that happens. It's like, I want to play the violin, and then there's, I want to play the slightly bigger violin.
Yeah. Or you could say the middle fiddle. Yeah.
Right.
So I was 15 when I started playing the viola, and I picked it up kind of just through my high school orchestra. Our teacher gave us the option of trying it out for a semester. So I did that, and I just love the sound so much.
Wow.
I love the sound, and I also think at that time I'd been playing violin for 10 years, and I think I was ready for something a little bit different. Then as I started playing the viola, not only did I love the sound so much, but I loved being the harmony part. Mm-hmm. And I also, I think the viola also suits my personality a bit more than the violin. I've never been the type of musician or person to want to be like the center of attention and like the star of the show. Like, I always have enjoyed playing in groups more than by myself. And so I think the viola kind of naturally lends its role that way. And so that's kind of how that worked out. And so I feel really lucky, though, that I started on violin because even though my education is all in viola, I never stopped playing the violin. And so I still and I teach a lot of violin now, and I just feel I'm glad that I have both of those. Like, I feel like they're pretty balanced in my music life right now.
Yeah.
So,
now, are you the person with the viola at the old time jam? Which would be kind of cool.
Yeah. So I sometimes do bring my viola to jams. I usually will bring both. I have a 5-string, I don't know, I guess you could call it violin.
It just has the lower.
It has all the strings, E, A, D, G, C on there. And I acquired that in the middle of COVID, so I haven't actually brought that one to a jam yet, but I think that will end up being my jamming instrument because it has everything I need. So yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes when I'm playing the violin, I'm like, man, I kind of miss my C string.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah.
Huh. And so, and that's the other piece about the viola, which is, as you were sort of alluding to, it's like that extra depth gives you the option of really sinking into the harmony, like in accompanying people. It's like, and this leads to another thing. Obviously, if I'm looking at your bio, I see the words Natalie Merchant, I see Indigo Girls, I see the WannaBeatles, First of all, those experiences, what were they? Were you like in an orchestra accompanying them, or were you, quartet? Like what was that experience? What were
how did that happen? So let's see, Natalie Merchant and the Indigo Girls, they were both guests at CU when I was a student there. And so I got to be a part of those performances through the university. And that was really, really interesting, just because I guess at that time I had never been a part of like a real, like, I don't know what you want to call that. Not rock and roll show, but like, with all the mics and just like, and a set list. And like, I don't know. I just remember thinking like, oh wow, this is amazing. I've never done anything like this before. And then, and so, yeah, those were just, I think it was just 1 or 2 shows for each of those. And it was just like, we were just a stop along the way in their tour. And then the WannaBeatles. Had you heard of them before?
No.
Okay.
But I'm so glad I looked them up. What?
Yeah, so they're a Beatles tribute band, and there was a time, I guess, when I was in middle school, high school, that was when I really got to know the Beatles music, and I really enjoyed that. And so then that was another, like, they had a show at the Bijou, and they're like, we need some string players to play the quartet part. So
Like Eleanor Rigby and stuff?
Yeah. So I ended up playing for them, and then I don't remember. We did a couple of shows together, and then and then I remember after I'd moved to Colorado, I flew home for Thanksgiving. And I get to Nashville airport, and there they are playing in the middle of the airport. And they were like, oh, like they, of course we all remembered each other and everything. And so, but they're a cool group because, they're playing the Beatles music, and wherever they go, I think they're pretty much they're based in Tennessee, and they mostly tour around this area, but they'll reach out. They like playing with local people, so they'll find musicians. So which I think is great. So
yeah. Absolutely. And that's hilarious too, because it's like, unlike the actual Beatles, who like won't remember your face.
Yeah.
These are almost better than the real Beatles because, you have a good experience. I have to laugh. It's like, my band teacher in high school was really great. From high school, I'm from Central Pennsylvania. Really great drummer, percussionist. Quit teaching to be in a full-time Fleetwood Mac cover band. And the difference between seeing them, who don't do drugs and just like perform well every night, and seeing actual Fleetwood Mac is like, musically, it's somewhat a better experience at this point, Mm-hmm. So that's a fascinating thing. No, but the Beatles, it's I have to dive into this. Like, they never cease to amaze me, like harmonically, and they have some really great melodies too. But just like the way that they used harmony, and so much throughout their career was amazing. What initially drew you to the Beatles? And likewise, what are the other things like that you enjoy? Musically speaking. I think
I started becoming familiar with the Beatles through a friend. I think it was like a childhood friend. Her parents often played their music when we were over at their house, and I liked it. I think because I was studying classical music from such a young age. I think to me it was something different, and I liked the sound. I liked that I could make harmonies with them, singing along, and so I think I was drawn to it because of that, and it just was like easy listening, I guess.
Right.
It's just really enjoyable, and something else that I remember. Not maybe at the time I didn't really think too much about it, just because I was like younger, but I just kind of the progression of their music, how it started out versus how it, like the very latest work of the Beatles is like there's the like Indian influence from George Harrison, and like all just it changed so much. And so which I kind of think about too with my own music. Like my interests have changed so much from when I was 18, and also like what I think what I value the most about a musician has changed a lot too.
Right.
So, yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's just a great sentiment. I feel like growth. It's like human, and I think I have to. I'm not gonna shit on any bands or people that listen to a specific type of music, because I understand that, like for instance, AC/DC. Like, what's amazing about an AC/DC song of today versus when they started is that they all sound exactly like AC/DC songs, But like the beat, like wow. the change, and it's like you could tell they were reacting in real time and like experiencing something and saying, do I like this? Do I not like it? If I like it, it's a part of me. If I don't, you know. And it's cool. It sounds like that. You're absolutely right. That sounds exactly like your experience in a lot of ways. I mean, I can't. I had to learn. I'm learning. Okay, it's in that weird stage of had to learn and learning just lyrically. Help.
Oh yeah.
What a beautiful, like, just what's the word? Like the voice leading is everything we know of as pop music, but it's like all of the tricks of like contemporary pop music in one song.
Yeah. Yeah.
Folks at home, you can't see it, but I just did the mind blown thing. So we're gonna have to start. Anytime you do a visual thing, you're gonna have to. I'm drinking my drink right now. Yeah. But yeah, that's cool. Wait, before I forget, this is not related at all, but I want to ask this. Small world thing. Ryan Foley.
Oh yeah. So he is also in the early music ensemble with me.
Right.
Yeah.
So I had to ask that.
Okay.
He went to college with me.
Okay. Yeah.
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 So he's a celebrity now. He's been mentioned on Real Knoxville Music. You know.
Yeah.
He'll have adoring fans clawing down his door. Yeah. Any day now.
So I noticed that you're wearing a shirt that says Porch Stomp.
Yes.
So, so you're also that's old time?
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, well, it's sort of a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Folks at home, little bio about your host today. No, I moved from New York. My background was, grew up Central Pennsylvania, rock and roll guy, listened to the 80s, 90s rock, then went to school, opera program, a lot of actually modern jazz and pots and pans kind of stuff. Went on to New York. No, a bunch of different places. And eventually I got into folk music and hung out with a lot of the old-time people, bluegrass people, and Porch Stomp is a folk festival I started in New York. Which actually, folks at home, we're doing Porch Stomp Knoxville as a part of Make Music Knoxville, which is coming up on June 21st. You should know about that.
Oh, now I do.
Yeah. It's going to be up at Imes. So
oh, cool.
I'll give you the details.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds kind of similar. Well, maybe. Do you know about the Jubilee Festival?
Do I know about the Jubilee?
It's in Knoxville, and it's like our version of Porch Stomp, I think.
Huh. Wait, who puts it on?
Well, it's at the Laurel Theater.
Oh.
So yeah. And it's a good gathering of old-time musicians.
Well, that's dope. I did not know, or maybe, that's the thing when you meet people, it's like there's always, do you know what?
Yeah. Well, actually, maybe kind of a nice thing is because of COVID, they did it virtually. So you could probably find a lot of their performances on Facebook.
Well, I'm writing that down in my notebook right now just to check it out.
Yeah, you should.
Jubilee Festival. So, well, that's good. I'll check that out. Let's turn. How are we doing on time? Oh, good. We have like half an hour left. Look at all this. So what are your time is not just music. What else do you do? How does that affect your music? What are your other passions? What are we going to talk about right now that's going to get you up off of that stool and shouting into that microphone? You're just so excited about it, even though you said that's not your personality because you're a viola player.
Yeah, I don't know that I'll be shouting, but, well, I have, as far as how I spend my time, I feel very lucky to be a person with 3 music degrees and have 3 jobs in music. So I have about 30 students. So I spend a lot of time each week teaching, and I love it. I love my students, and I feel really lucky to have that our community is such a really great string education community here. A lot of orchestra programs here, and our Knoxville Youth Orchestra is really amazing. So I teach, and I also play in the symphony, and we've starting to have our comeback from COVID. And so I feel also really lucky that the symphony has been really creative in offering us work this year. So actually next week I'll start playing at the health department at their vaccination sites. And so,
I might wait.
Yeah.
No, I'm getting mine at Sam's Club. I was so excited. I was like, I'll see you there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have quartets that will be performing at the health department for the next 4 weeks. And then we've had some live performances with a very limited audience and live stream stuff. And so that's been good. And then my third job is I'm a representative for the Baroque Violin Shop. And so I help with rentals and sales at the schools in Knox County and Maryville City. And so that's just another aspect of music. Everyone needs an instrument to play. And so I get a lot of interaction. I meet a lot of students and parents and teachers that way. And I also like that there's a hands-on aspect there. I do minor repair work. And so I kind of like that I get to, get my hands dirty a little bit and sand things and stuff.
That's cool.
So, yeah. So,
I didn't even know that there was a Baroque violin.
Well, the name is Baroque violin. It's not actually Baroque instruments, but that's the name of it.
I was going to say, my mind would have been blown.
Yeah,
no. So, for folks at home, if you don't know, it's there's a big thing in the early music community, which is the earliest part of sort of what we think of as classical music, where a lot of people play the antique instruments. You're walking out on stage and you hope you don't slip and fall, because if you collapse on this thing, it could be upwards of, $100,000 even for some of these instruments, $200,000. I'm trying to think what Chris Thiele had a mandolin like that. Do you know Chris?
Oh, yeah. I didn't know about his mandolin, though.
Yeah, I think he had, I think that's what he spent his MacArthur money on. It was on a really old mandolin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, anyway, whatever. Yeah, do you play with gut strings too? That's all, folks at home. That's also a thing that happens in early music.
So I do not. When I was in the early music ensemble, we all had Baroque bows, but because all of us were also in the classical music program, we couldn't really tune back and forth so much. But no, we all had the Baroque bows, and I think I don't even remember. I used something that was the closest synthetic string to gut back then, but I don't anymore. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating though. I have heard some recordings of orchestras on the gut strings. It's adds this whole other dynamic to the sound.
Oh yeah.
Ugh. That was a good ugh. Sorry. Folks at home, want to make sure. Yeah. Wow. And I had all other places I was going to go. Oh, teaching. I can relate to what you're saying about teaching so much because I'm teaching at School of Rock over in West Knox. The way you were talking about Suzuki, that's exactly how I feel about the School of Rock program. I love that it's a lot of by ear and a lot of group learning stuff. Granted, it's not really melodic, it's not really harmonic, but it has this real wonderful place, and so talk to me about that. What is there an age group that you generally prefer or you connect with? There's an affinity for the young kids because they have that enthusiasm of just starting, or the older students who sort of have their trajectory figured out a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't really have a specific age group that I focus on. My youngest student right now is 3, and my oldest is 65. So I teach everyone. That was also something when I first got out of school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I had a favorite age. And so I said, I'm going to try everything and see what happens. So I was so lucky to be able to work with one of my colleagues, Erin Archer. She started the Suzuki Early Childhood Education program in Knoxville. And it's a very niche class. It's for a Suzuki method for babies age 0 to 3. So it was so much fun, and it honestly pretty mind-blowing to see how these tiny little kids, like babies, could learn rhythm and melody, and also just to see what is innate to a child, and just to see that little class grow over the span of a year was really, really amazing. And I also it was such a cool experience too, because actually my viola professor from UT, she had 2 little twin boys in the class, and it was so fun to see them. So anyway, that was a really cool experience. And so, and I'm not a part of that anymore, but that also, I would have never had that opportunity. I would have never worked with kids that little if I hadn't, had that, opportunity to work with her. And, so now, I think, I wouldn't say I have a favorite age. I think maybe my favorite thing with teaching is just getting to know my students and learning about humans and how we learn, and how everyone is so different.
Yes.
But I think just getting to know my students and being able to see them every week, and then also being able to look back at 2 years ago or something and say I can't believe how far they've come, and just not only as musicians but as people. Right. And that's something that I feel like is so important to me. My teachers, my professors influenced me so much, not only as a musician but as a person. And again, it's one of those things that I didn't realize how much of an impact they had on me during my life, at such pivotal periods of time, like my early 20s. And I didn't realize how much of an impact being educated and being around those people was until now, looking back on those times, and I realized wow, they really taught me so much. And I'm so grateful for all of that.
Yeah, and it's an amazing balance that needs to be struck for that to work well. It's on the one hand, it's you have to meet people where they are, which it seems like that's a big part of your experience, since you acknowledge that everyone's growing. It's just about, where are you on the path? Okay, let me help you with that. And, and the other piece is that it's always great when you there's this unfortunate stereotype, and it's unfortunate because a lot of times it's true, and sometimes it's not. And it happens in the classical music, and it sometimes happens in the jazz world, and I know that from my experience, where it's can be they call it a stuck-up thing. And it's well, my way is right, and your way is wrong. And it's always beautiful when, for that to work, there needs to be a very particular combination of personalities, right, for that dynamic to work. And it's always great when you hear about those environments that are open to letting people put their own experience in the mix, and bring themselves as students, in a real way, so that personal growth can happen. I feel like I was just rambling there. I myself got lost as I was saying that. So folks at home, feel free. You can turn the dial if you want. I'm just kidding. But anyway, no, but that sounds. The way you pontificated, I feel like was spot on. So that was great. Okay, let me. I want to do one more professional question, just because I'm curious. Are you thinking about? Do you know of Avon Kang? You know of him? He's a violist, mostly in sort of the jazz world, but he was like. Is that a? Ooh,
it's a ringing bell.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. He does a lot of amplification kind of stuff, and I was just curious if you ever. I was just thinking about him. The viola got me thinking about him, which got me thinking about. Do you ever like experiment with those types of things, or are you strictly acoustic?
So far, I have not explored too much with that. Well, on the viola or the violin. I took an electronic music class in Colorado, and I learned a lot about that. And or was it electronic composition? I don't remember, but I learned a lot about electronic music, and it was one of those things where I saw so much potential. Like I could see how fun it could be to continue to explore. And I started to learn a piece for viola and electronics called At Dead Horse's Point or On Dead Horse's Point. It's a place, and it was written by one of the professors at John Drumheller at CU, and he had this piece for viola and electronics, and I feel like there was a visual aspect too with the lighting, maybe. And I had been planning on performing it, so I started learning this piece, and then it turned out that the venue where I would be performing didn't have the electronics aspect, or maybe it's the lighting aspect. Anyway, so I never actually got to perform it, but I think it is really cool, and something that, especially with the pandemic, I have gotten to appreciate the just being able to record and like layer myself, and to give myself like a semblance of playing with other people.
Right.
So, so that's been fun. But as far as like actual, like electronic stuff, I haven't really explored too much there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just figured I'd ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny when we mentioned the visual thing. I just couldn't help. Is that Crumb piece, Voices of the Whale? Isn't that the big?
That's a trio.
Yeah, with piano, flute, and cello.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool one. And
I was just thinking about the visual because
they have to wear masks.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't remember. Is there a specific lighting thing for that?
I feel like there is. Yeah. I think it does change or something in there. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. That whole period of quote unquote classical music is just fascinating. It's like all of the influences converging,
Mm-hmm.
and also that like very classical thing of like, well, I'm a composer, so I write it on a piece of paper element to it. It's amazing and weird and whatever. Okay, so let me ask this. Let's go back to your childhood. What was your first CD that you ever bought?
Ooh, first CD. Yikes. I don't know. Probably something super cheesy like Raffi or something, something like that. Or, probably something like that. I don't know. Or maybe in my, strange like middle school rebellion, like Avril Lavigne or something like that.
Yeah. So and this is also really interesting. Like, do you find, so first of all, what, you were clearly listening to Avril Lavigne, you're clearly listening to Raffi, what were those things that were like a part of your childhood that you remember, like being like, oh, this is my identity now, Mom and Dad. Leave me alone. Or what, you know what I mean? Like, what were those things for you?
Well, so another thing that I should mention, because she's such a big part of my life, is my sister. So she is the reason that I played the violin. My sister is, she's older than I am. And so she's actually the one who wanted to play the violin first. And then I had to do everything my older sister did. So I played the violin too. And so music and, playing was just ingrained in my life and my family. And so it wasn't, I won't say it was an expectation, but it was just kind of what we did. Like my sister played the violin and practiced and did all of that. So did I. And, I did go through, there was a time in my life where I guess this is like kind of a regular teenager thing too, but I did not want to practice anymore. I was like, had no interest really in doing that. And
I hear that.
And I was like, I want to do different things. So I got really into various sports for a little while. But like music was always still there. Like my parents always had it there on the table as an option. My sister never quit. So she was also playing. And I think that was also maybe a part of why I picked up the viola. I needed a change. I needed something a little different. But something else that I've come to realize, and there have been various periods of my life where I've taken time off, like time away from my instruments. And I always come back to it because it is just like a part of me. And I can't imagine living my life without having some sort of music, like any kind of music like that, but the playing aspect. I think I can't imagine a life without that. And so I guess, there have been different like styles and things. I think also through, and this is just by nature of like sports, I think like workout music and stuff, that's how I got through teams and things like that. That's how I got exposed to some like rock, rap, like all sorts of wild stuff. And of course, this was back in the day of mixed CDs. So I have all this music, and a lot of it I don't even know what it is. Because, and nowadays I guess I could like Shazam it or something,
right,
and find out what these songs are. But I just moved and I unearthed this whole like case.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I went through the exact same thing in moving here to Knoxville.
And I was
Crazy.
like, what are all of these? And it was like all these silly names that friends had put on CDs, and I was like, what is this even? It was like cruising mix, driving mix,
right,
chill.
And like, you think about
what are these?
It's almost like they used to talk about with the mixtapes thing about how much like time and energy sort of went into that process of picking the order of the songs.
Oh yeah.
And the CDs were not quite the same, but they still were like pretty intentional. You know, I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the way you decorated them with the markers. Did you ever do that thing with like the portable CD player where you got it spinning and you put the marker on it?
Oh no, but I wish I did.
Oh yeah,
cool.
It was horrible for the portable CD players, but it was made the coolest designs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I thought of another name when you mentioned your sister. I thought of this, Zoe and Annie Aqua. I think they. Now that I think about it, they might be Denver instead of Boulder. But they were sister duo, mostly in klezmer music these days.
Oh, okay.
But they are New York / there. So, okay, anyway, figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I'll have to
It's what the show's about.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so tell me this. It's like, clearly a lot of that is social music. Clearly, it seems to me, you found this other stuff, you know. The thing about being a violin player is I have chosen what I'm going to do. Here's me asserting my musicality in this way, yada la la la. Viola sort of leaves this other option of being like as supporting figure Was that also, I mean, is that part of the shift that happened? I'm curious if you think about it in that way.
I think if you're talking about the role of the instruments, yes. But for me personally, and also just as a music student, there is still that aspect of, well, you're going to learn all the solo viola rep.
Right.
And actually, it's funny that you say that, social music. So that's something that was like this revelation for me when I started playing old time.
Yeah.
I love playing in the symphony, but I love the idea and the experience of 70 different people on stage coming together to create this common idea. I really, really love that. However, a large part of that experience is also we put in the personal practice time ahead, and we show up and we're ready to play. And there's not very much like actual discussion on stage in rehearsal. I mean, of course, there's a lot of communication musically and all of that, but there's not that like actually talking.
Right.
Whereas when you show up to an old time jam, you never know who's going to be there. That's
Right.
a surprise every time. Well, most of the time. And also, it is social music. It's like, well, what's your favorite tune? What do you want to play? Or what new tune have you learned lately? And also, people, with old time, there's no expectation of being a professional or knowing what you're doing. It's come as you are and do your best and have a good time. And I think there's something really special about that. It's very inclusive, and it just leaves lots of room for like creativity there. But to me, that's like the perfect companion to symphony, where I like that I can know exactly what to expect. I like that I do put in the time to prepare and then get to show, like, put it all together with everyone else and make something really magical and special happen on stage there too, because of the amount of preparation that has gone into it. And so I think that can be the most incredible experience as well. So I think they're just two such different experiences, and it's not to say that one is better than the other. They're just very different.
Yeah.
And so I like that hopefully now that things are getting a little like more back to normal, I'll still have both of those. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people like to shit on that experience of the symphony, or it's like I spent a lot of time at the Met, it's like the grandeur of that experience, the amount of money, the amount of just hype and whatever, but it's like the power of that many people focusing on the same thing, and each playing their own part and coming together. It's like, like in a lot of ways, a rock band can't match that. Even though, it can have this volume, it can have like, 4 people, like, yes, they're all hitting at the same time, but like, there's this incredible thing that happens, when an intimate moment can be reached, like in a symphonic movement, like, which is just, that's 70 people that are just playing literally the softest note that they can possibly play. And it's barely audible. It's like, how is everyone doing that at the same, like, it's fascinating. And, yeah, sorry, just diving off the dime board there. Let me just check time. We are almost done. Yeah, let me think. Is there anything that the world is dying to know? Is there anything you're dying to tell the world?
I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any big messages or anything.
Are you playing anywhere coming up that people can find you?
I'll actually be playing with Jessica Watson at Albright Grove.
Live?
Yeah, we'll be
Wow.
there May 2nd at 4:30. I think we're just playing, I think, on their patio. So that'll be
Cool.
fun. And I'll be, if you need your COVID vaccine, I'll be at the health department for the next 4 weeks.
We're not, and that's the thing. I'm not here to judge, but I will say, how great is that you can just go get a vaccine and hear great music.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a 2-for-1 right there.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, like we were talking about before, lots of recordings going on. I'm recording on Sunday a piece for 5 violas. Sounds like a joke. It's not.
Is there a light bulb involved? I feel like.
No, it's a piece for 5 violas it was composed by the principal violist of the Cincinnati Symphony, Christian Kohlberg. And it was intended to be a premiere piece for the American Viola Society conference that was supposed to be last summer. And of course, that was canceled or postponed. And now it's happening this summer, still virtually. But we're recording that as a part of their concert series for that. And so that's been a really interesting, it's been really fun actually to put it together and have the experience of, being able to talk to a composer, a modern day composer, and learn a new piece that no one has ever played before. So there's no recording to listen to. There's no, there's no basis of this is how it goes. We're the ones who are going to be
some MIDI file that someone
right, right. And so we've also had this amazing opportunity to talk to the composer and learn the story that goes with his piece, and then how are we going to tell that story? And so we actually just had a Zoom call earlier today that was really, really enlightening and interesting to just hear more about his intentions and what he heard and why he wrote things the way he wrote them. And so we get to record that on Sunday. So I'm excited about that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so if folks at home didn't have a pen and a piece of paper to get these dates down, do you have a website? Is there
I don't have a website, but I think probably for local folks, most exciting, most interesting will be May 2nd, Sunday, May 2nd. Yeah, Sunday, May 2nd at Albright Grove.
Got to hear Jessica.
Yeah, you get to hear Jessica and our friends, Kathleen and her Williams will be playing too. So
cool.
Good old time stuff.
That's awesome. Yes,
Yep.
So check that out. I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for being here, and Thank you for coming out. Thank you, Chris, for running sound today. Before we get going, let me just say a couple of my goodbyes. Once again, thank you so much to our sponsors, School of Rock, Hutch and Howard Realty of Keller Williams, Energy Home Solution, and Union Place Bar and Grill. It is so nice to say that again after I'm warmed up and doing this thing. And before we go, I have to say, Meet Music Knoxville is a branch off of Make Music Knoxville, which is this huge event that's happening on June 21st, celebrating the community right here in Knoxville. We'll have 10 events. It'll be a big circuit. It's going to be a ball. MakeMusicKnox.com to find out more information about that. And I can't help but promoting a great event I have coming up. Thea Hopkins, who wrote the song Jesus is on the Wire, which was the last big hit of Peter, Paul, and Mary, is going to be my guest on a special program called Songwriters Exchange. I can remember how this goes. On May 7th. If you're interested in hearing her chit-chat, you can find that information by checking out, actually, porchstomp.com or one of our social media websites where you will see a flyer and information on how to attend that. Our next show is May 28th, and with that, I say goodbye. Thank you, guys. Oh, that's right. Chris just reminded me, I'm playing tomorrow on Real Knoxville Music at Union Place. We're going to be there from 8 to 11. I'm going to be joined by Max Miller. I can't believe I forgot this. How am I the center of my own world? Anyway, you can listen to Real Knoxville Music right here at this website to hear that, and we're going to be having a great time. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you for being here for Meet Music Knoxville, and we will see you all next month.